Do you feel like you have to get your coffee to get through the day? That without coffee, you can't function. These are all signs, and there are more, but these are all principal signs of saying, okay, time to take advantage, on my sleep, and really think about prioritizing it and watching yourself.
Welcome to the Shaping Freedom podcast, where we dive into conversations that inspire personal growth, transformation, and clarity in challenging times. I'm your host, Lisanne Basquiat. Joining us today is the incredible Julie Wright. She's a former music executive turned renowned sleep coach and also the author of The Natural Sleeper, a book that you must pick up if you are looking for ways to increase the quality of your sleep. Through her company, We Sleep, Julie helps individuals, families, and workplaces to develop healthier sleep habits. She's also been very vocal about how modern work culture, including this push for rigid in-office schedules, impacts our ability to get the rest that we need. Julie's journey is fascinating, not just because of her transition from the high-paced music industry to sleep coaching, but because she understands how deeply sleep affects every aspect of our well-being, decision-making, and emotional resilience. Today, we'll explore why so many of us are struggling with sleep, how we can reclaim it, and what it truly means to prioritize deep rest as a radical act of self-care. So, welcome to the podcast. You've had a very unique journey from the music industry to focusing on sleep specifically. Tell us how that came to be and where you've been until now.
Yes, it's a great question. So when I met Billy, your publicist, so I worked in the music business. At the time, I was working for Maverick Records, Madonna's label, as part of the Warner Music Group. And then I moved on to the Rhapsody music subscription service. Before the days of Spotify, we had Rhapsody in the US. So, and before that, I worked also for like Tommy Boy Records, and I was very active in the music industry. And then I specialized in digital marketing. Mm-hmm. The family called me back to Europe, basically. I had my dad and my grandmother were ill, and I had to go back where I grew up, which is France, although where I found work was in London. Mm-hmm. And so London's been a fascinating place to live in, as is LA, in a different way for sure. But at some point, I'm sort of like in the middle of my career, and I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my days on this planet? And I think I was looking for more purpose, and feel like I could do something good in the world that could help others, Mm-hmm. And not to say that you can't help others through film or TV or music, because I also work, Paramount Pictures, Disney. So I sort of did the rounds, and entertainment's great, and I still love it. But I think for the second part of my life, I was looking for, purpose and healing. Mm-hmm. And so the way I came up with the topic of sleep was through a career change program in London, which is called Escape the City. And it's a 3-month program where you reflect on your career and make maybe different decisions, either changing career or starting a business. And during an ideation process, which is, you come up with business ideas, in other words, and the exercise was to come up with 30 business ideas every day for like a month. Not easy, but somehow through that process, sleep became something that first that I was very attached to, but I thought would be ticking all the boxes, But I sort of started from a completely different background. So it took a lot of, in terms of researching, working with sleep scientists and experts, and really just getting in there, trying different therapies as well, because I became an insomniac before I made that decision, and it was linked to personal issues, work, relationship, the loss of my grandmother, my dad being really ill to cancer. And all of a sudden, when I was a great sleeper while I lived in LA, I get to London, and then I realized how important it is to sleep well, for every aspect of life. It's exactly like you said, physical, psychological, medical, motivational. There are so many reasons why it's important to sleep well. And what I discovered is that actually sleep is a very complex process. It's not an easy thing. And also discovered that sleep, when you talk about wellness and well-being, is the foundation rather than a nice to have,
That's right.
It's something that people need to prioritize. And when they think about nutrition, and physical activity, fitness, sleep is right there. If you don't sleep well, you're not going to make the right choices when you eat, and you won't have the motivation to exercise. And so because my sleep got worse for about 10 years, I was an insomniac. That's just a long time. It affected me in all kinds of ways. I mean, everyone knows pretty much when you don't sleep well, what happens. But it's because I personally was going through this experience that I chose sleep, because I feel like I know what I'm talking about. But I needed more of the, research and scientific and training also, so basically just redid my whole life around something that's very dear to me.
What I appreciate about that, and I know that the reason that Billy Billy from Media Repertoire, who is the publicist for Shaping Freedom, I think sleep is so important. And I'm so excited to hear you mention that sleep is foundational to so many things. And in this culture that we live in, both here and I don't know, about Europe. I think that Europe is a little, understands it a little bit better than we do here in the United States, that sleep is important. And it informs every other part of our lives. And I get so frustrated hearing the narrative and the messaging that we have in this country about rest and about sleep, where you get rewarded for going and going and going, and you get rewarded for the least amount of time that you need for restoration as possible. And it does not make any sense, and it makes for exhausted human beings. And unfortunately, it, from my observation, begins at a very young age, when you have children who are being raised by people who are attempting to live on as little sleep as possible. Those are the habits and behaviors that they wind up getting programmed into. And so it goes on and on.
Absolutely. And it's also a vicious circle. So I guess you have to make the difference between those who don't know, but those who know, but still do nothing about it. I mean, when I started in the area of sleep, which was in 2016, there was a lot of interest, but not awareness. And there was no, like you said, prioritizing it either. I think things are getting better for all generations and ages, because I think there's more and more that's come up in the press. And also, gadgets and sort of wearable technology that just brought attention to sleep as well. And people started to think about how to monitor sleep, which is not something that people were doing. You could remember, maybe what you ate or if you did exercise, but most people weren't paying as much attention and monitoring their sleep, even though it supports all of these functions. It supports our performance. It supports our health, medical and psychological health. Literally, if you deprive someone from sleep, they will just lose their mind. There's a reason why, unfortunately, some of the torture techniques is about not letting someone fall asleep. In other words, it's one of the hardest things to resist to. You can resist eating for a while. Resisting to sleep is just not possible, except if you were to take, drugs, recreational or medical. But it definitely is the foundation. And, in Europe, it's not so different than the US. So sleep is for the wicked, or I'll sleep when I'm dead, or...
What is that?
Exactly.
What is that?
Exactly. Someone told me this actually just today. I received a message, actually, it's like an ex-boyfriend from when I was quite young, in my teenage, and he just wrote that. He's like, yeah, I'll just sleep when, I can't, like basically when he's dead, and it's not the right approach. I mean, if you want to live happy, healthy, purposeful lives, and you want to feel good about yourself and you can be the best person you can be,
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing your sleep will truly, truly, truly support that. So many processes take place when you sleep: healing, growing, memorizing, processing, information, but also emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just say that as well? I mean, it's the time where children grow. And through life, you still have the human growth hormone, that will help you repair and heal your body as well. Um, and a lot of people think that it's okay to sacrifice sleep. And even if in the short term, you can kind of push through, and manage, in the long term, you are exposing yourself to very, very bad diseases, whether it be cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, and in general, any neurological diseases will be impacted by sleep, poor sleep, I should say. So even choices that you make for yourself today will help you in the short term, but also in the long term.
Absolutely. And again, this is truly a routine that is near and dear to my heart. It's a priority for me to get not just hours of sleep, because I need 8 hours. I'm just going to say it. And it's not a popular thing for a person to admit. I need 8 hours of sleep. I accept that about myself. I know that about myself. And and I can go a couple of days with, kind of pushing it. But I also know that after a few days, it starts to catch up. And whether I express it or not, I can feel the discomfort within myself. I'm a little shorter in terms of my temperament. It takes a little bit longer for me to process things. I just need the sleep. And for me, it starts the day before.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I start working on ensuring that I get a good night's sleep the day before, then I know that that following day, I'm sharper, I'm clearer, I feel better, my mood is better.
Mm-hmm.
I can get a workout in without whining and complaining about it on the inside, all the things.
Yes, and so all the executive functions of the brain are at best when you sleep well,
Yeah.
So everything you just said, including making decisions, coming up with a strategy, coming up with solutions as well. There's part of the sleep process is also about resolving unresolved emotions or problems or situations that you need to do something about, which is
Right.
why often people say, oh, they wake up with an idea that they hadn't thought about the day before, you know? And so to a certain degree, you can catch up on sleep if you haven't slept very well 1 or 2 nights. But if sleeping poorly is something that you do consistently, you won't be able to really catch up for the missed time sleeping. And also napping, because that's something that I get a lot in terms of the question. So if it's a short nap, probably okay, as long as it doesn't disturb your circadian rhythm system. And the circadian rhythm system is our body clock, and when people say, oh, the body clock, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Nature and the bodies and the brains love a routine. And you mentioned that before. And I'd love to hear what your routine is before sleep. It is about regularity. I mean, if you look at nature in general, you'll see that there are cycles and sort of repeat cycles and things that happen at certain time of the year or of the day, of the night. And so it's important to have a routine in the sense of giving your body and your brain regularity and sort of like a solid process,
Mm-hmm.
that supports the central nervous system and your executive functions, which is what you said just now: thinking, strategizing, being better at work, being more pleasant also with other people.
Such a big thing.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, you're not going to feel like smiling if you really feel poorly. You may have a headache. you may not look great. And by the way, there was a study in Scandinavia about that, measuring someone's attractiveness and beauty based on having good sleep or not, which is really, really interesting as well. Just to think about it also impacts your physical appearance, but also how you socialize with people, your patience with children, or perhaps things that happen at work, and so, yeah, I find it astounding that, most people don't understand the priority, or don't know where to start, and just feel discouraged. I'm here to say that no need to take sleeping pills. Your body has all the sleep medicine that it needs to sleep if you know how to reconnect with your natural ability to sleep, which starts definitely in childhood. But even then, you could sleep very well, through your certain part of your life, and then all of a sudden something happens and you've dysregulated your brain and your body clock, and you just have this sort of irregular lifestyle with excesses, ups and downs, and that's not going to help. The body doesn't know what to do, like the brain's very smart, obviously. It knows what to send, which neurochemical, which hormone, it needs to send where to fix things. But if you don't give that regularity to your brain and your central nervous system, it's just going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
If you don't give it the right nutrition, you will impact your blood sugar balance. And when that happens, the body goes in sort of stress mode by releasing hormones that will either cut your appetite or enhance it, or bring in more stress hormone in your body. So that's cortisol. And a lot of people would have heard about that, but it's like, if your blood sugars are not balanced throughout the day, so what happens during the day, you're more likely to not have a great night's sleep. Same thing with drinking alcohol, for example. It takes 5 hours for a cup of coffee. I said alcohol, but I also wanted to say caffeine along the way. So for a cup of coffee or a glass of wine to process through your metabolism. If you drink alcohol or drink coffee too late in the day, you definitely will have issues with sleep, even for those who don't believe it. Like, basically, if you were to measure your sleep in a sleep lab, with being wired to try and work out muscular activity, our REM sleep, which is the dream stage of sleep, gets severely impacted. You probably will wake up after, say, 3, 4, 5 hours and going to struggle to fall back asleep. Your body temperature raises. When your body temperature doesn't drop, a couple degrees in Fahrenheit and maybe 1 to 2 degrees in Celsius, your body thinks it's time to wake up. Because think about it. When you wake up, the sun is out. When the sun is out, it's warm and hot. Time to wake up. A lot of the answers are in the evolution of mankind, and understanding that physiologically, physically, or even from an anatomy point of view, we are not any different than humans, thousands or millions of years, depending on, your beliefs. But like, basically, we have not changed. Our brain hasn't evolved more. It's still the same brain. And we have so much information going through it as well,
Yeah.
Anyway, I could go on and on. I think people get the message. They know that it's important to sleep, but they just don't realize how serious it is, like what you said.
Well, I think it's pretty serious for even the basic executive functions that we mentioned.
Sure.
And there's some really juicy tidbits that you added in there about, I didn't think about that your body believes that it's time to wake up, that the sun is, what happens as your body's attempting to metabolize caffeine and alcohol. What I'd love to, one of the things for people is that we talk a lot about what the problems are. And one of the things that I really want for my audience to get is the how. How, like, first of all, how do you know that you have an issue? And I think that with regard to sleep, maybe we get it. And then secondly, what can they do? What can we do?
Yes,
to get to quality sleep, because that's really what this is about.
That's the juicy bit. And that's why I wrote this book about it. You know, it's
she's
like
holding up
200
The
pages.
Natural Sleeper, her book that has
Exactly.
over 200 pages of information about sleep. Yeah.
Exactly. And about the how. So
how do you know? Like, because again, there are people, and I am on a quest to get people to type A differently, right? Because type A is great. You get things done, you are accomplished, and all that great, wonderful stuff. You're creating things, you're moving, great. I believe that can be done differently than how it's done usually. And I think that part of that is ensuring that we're not accomplishing things and checklist items at the expense of our self-care and our health. And sleep is part of that.
It's absolutely part of it. It's like a huge part. Okay, so
So how do you know? You know that there's a problem? Let's talk about that first.
Okay, so the official definition from I want to say medical or psychological is if you sleep poorly 3 days per week over a period of 3 months, and you still have issues with sleeping, whether you wake up in the middle of the night or you struggle falling back asleep. So that is the official definition of insomnia. But strangely, in terms of medicine, insomnia is at the moment not categorized as a disease or illness. And it's something that the medical community, especially when I'm thinking about doctors like GPs or primary care physicians, do not study intensively at all. So I'm hearing this from doctors that when you look at the program to learn about health and how to heal people, depending on the unis, the colleges, they spend between 2 hours and maybe 5 hours learning about sleep. And to become a doctor, you need, 5, 7, 10 years, to become a doctor. So this is how little a medical profession knows about sleep. And that's why it's hard. It's until now, it's just been more difficult to stress the importance of it. When you go see your GP, it's still talking about the how, you're being prescribed, medication, and the numbers are staggering. Year on year, the millions of prescription pills is increasing. It's frightening, actually.
For everything.
When it's something that you could resolve yourself.
Yeah.
But that's what the doctor will do. They will prescribe you. They usually limit it at 2 weeks. And there's a reason for that, because of the side effects coming from these medicines. They're either hypnotic or sedative type of medicine. Even the stuff that's over the counter, like ZQuil and all of these, which is pretty much antihistamine, and it's supposed to bring down your alertness. And it works, but none of these are working in the long term. We're going to spend a third of our lives sleeping, and depending on how long we live, it could be anywhere from 210,000 and 250,000 hours of sleep.
Hopefully. Do you know that we have a line of Shaping Freedom wellness products? Each are beautifully crafted and designed to support you in cherishing your mind, body, emotions, and soul. Carve out a sanctuary in your life with our Luxe sustainable yoga and meditation mats, essential oil candles, and more. Embrace self-care and reflection with every item, lovingly created to enhance your daily practice of spending time on you. Elevate your wellness journey with Shaping Sanctuary Collection, because you deserve to feel balanced, nurtured, and inspired. Visit shapingsanctuary.com for more information.
There's a good reason why it's important to self-care and take care of that. And so how do you know, besides that definition that I told you, it's looking at if you need to nap or not during the day. in theory, you shouldn't have to nap. It could be just a nice, little break, but can you stay alert and functioning without needing to fall asleep, without, dozing off when someone talks to you, without dozing off as you're driving somewhere? All of these are indicators.
But those seem very extreme. I'm saying that because I think that there are times where a person could be going about their day and they feel like that sleepiness doesn't leave. It's there throughout the day.
So I will elaborate a bit more on that then also. On the simplest symptoms, if you will, is, so when you yawn and your eyes start watering, and you just want to, well, for babies, they might scrub their eyes, but you start yawning and your eyes are watering and you just don't have the same energy, is the sign for you to go to sleep if it's in the evening. Ideally, we would need alarm clocks because our wake up and sleep onset is based on light, outdoors, on the sun. So as humans, we're diurnal beings, which means we're awake by day and active by day. And then when the sun comes down, we are supposed to be resting, and sleeping. So it's a very subjective thing. I mean, you can monitor with, Fitbits or Apple Watches. It does give you some information. Generally, the information is more about the amount of sleep you got and maybe which stage you spent, from deep to light to REM sleep, which is the dream stage. What it doesn't tell you as well, though, is the quality of your sleep. So do you feel refreshed in the morning? Could you go back to bed? Could you get up and get going, but then just don't feel on top of your form? Do you feel like you have to get your coffee to get through the day? That without coffee, you can't function. These are all signs, and there are more, but these are all principal signs of saying, okay, time to take advantage, on my sleep. And really think about prioritizing it and watching yourself, over it. So you sleep 8 hours. And a lot of times people ask me, how much sleep do we really need? And this will be different from one person to another. A lot of factors are genetic, in terms of how much sleep you need. And then you've got something that's called chronotype, which is the right time for you to be active and awake. And a chronotype will determine whether you are more of a morning or night owl or in between. And that's important because we should be capitalizing on our energy levels as well, so that for the early birds and morning people, that's what they should prioritizing, spending most of their energy, different from night owls, And then in terms of what we can do, oh my gosh, there is so much.
I know. So for that person, how do you okay, I'm not sleeping. I realize that I fall within that category of insomnia. I'm an insomniac at some level, less than 3 days a week or more than 3 days a week. I'm not getting enough sleep. What do I do? How do I start to get myself onto the right track?
So ideally, you already know the basics, most people know the basics, going to sleep at a certain time and having that routine around timings. You would notice that when you exercise, you sleep better, in the night. You will notice that if there's noise, you're not going to sleep very well, Actually, let me move on to the things that are not so well known and noticeable that people wouldn't have necessarily thought of, except if they learned about it, And also some not myth, but I guess starting with light and wearing eye mask. So what's interesting is that the brain perceives the brightness of the light and also the color of the light. So bluish in the morning and more amber, orange, red in the evening. And this has to do with when you wake up. If you're up really early, as dawn takes place, you'll notice that actually the light looks very blue.
Yes.
And then when the sun sets, you'll see these beautiful, especially in California, you'll see these beautiful sunsets with a lot of red on the green.
Mm-hmm.
So the brain doesn't only perceive the brightness of the light, but also the color of the light, and makes a decision as to time to sleep, time to wake up, you know? So usually in all my talks, or even in consultations with groups or individuals on that topic, light is like the number one that I want people to focus on, basically. How much time are you spending outdoors, during the day? Going back to what you were saying, and what I'll say too, is that a lot of reasons and answers about our sleep are about the choices we make during the day, less so what happens throughout the night. So focus on daytime, Did you spend enough time outdoors, for example, because your body clock is going to set itself according to the light levels, and I mentioned also the colors. In your bedroom environment, is it conducive to a good night's sleep?
Mm-hmm.
Do you work from bed in your laptop or scroll through social media in bed?
Mm-hmm.
Not a good idea, because the brain will make subconscious association with this happens here, that happens there. Therefore, if you are an insomniac, it's actually not advised to even read in bed. And that's extreme. If you can still sleep well as you read in, a book in bed, that's okay. But if you're an insomniac, one of the first things that you have to learn is how to create your bedroom as the sanctuary for your rest, your sleep, your growth, your healing, nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
No TV in the room, and so a lot of people tell me, well, I sleep really well with the TV on, and yes, it creates some sort of background noise. But your sleep, if you were to measure your sleep activity and your brain activity while you have TV on, or, notice that the cycles in which you go are not exactly the same as someone who sleeps in silence, because while you sleep, your hearing is still alert. It doesn't sleep. Scientists believe that this is because of an evolutionary need and skill to hear out for danger while you're asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this hasn't changed since the millions of years. So hearing, your ears are on. They're
Mm-hmm.
switched on. Because if a baby's crying, if someone's busting into your house, or if you hear, I don't know, a police siren or anything unusual, you will wake up. It's an alert system. It's right. It's healthy. It's to protect you. The brain is in the business of keeping you alive. That's what it does.
Yeah.
Period. That's it, including sleeping well. So when I work with clients on a one-to-one basis, or in groups, or, webinars and talks, I look at these different areas. So there's the psychological is a good one to start with. A lot of people can't sleep well, or wake up in the middle of the night not being able to fall back asleep. It's very common. So what happens is that during the 3-5 hours of the beginning of your sleep, your body and your brain prioritize deep sleep, where actually all stages of sleep are as important as each other. So deep sleep is not the only sleep that matter.
Mm-hmm.
REM sleep is essential. Light sleep is essential as well. So deep sleep is more focused on healing, and sort of growing your body, or repairing, or getting over an illness maybe. Dream sleep, so REM sleep, is a lot about problem solving, imagination, creativity, which is why a lot of writers might wake up in the middle of the night and come up with all these ideas, and they have to put them down, So all stages of sleep are equally important. They affect your central nervous system. It helps you bring down your body temperature, your blood pressure, your heart rate, your heartbeat also lowers. And so all of this happens while you are asleep. So your brain is still alive, and everything is orchestrated for you to have a good night's sleep. So we talked about psychology and sort of habits, so the bedroom shouldn't be somewhere where you exercise, or, ideally you shouldn't work from your bed and not work from your bedroom. So think about your environment. Also, like, is it well organized? You might look at things like, for some people, even colors, might impact their sleep. You might look out for any sort of lighting in the bedroom
Mm-hmm.
because your eyes can perceive light even when your eyelids are closed.
So what is your thought on blackout curtains and things? Do you think
I'm a
that,
big
or do you?
fan. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of it because I think, well, especially when you try to retrain your brain,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if you don't wake up and go to sleep according to the sun. If you do follow the sun in terms of your activity level, you shouldn't even need blackout curtains, or eye masks. But I'm a fan of them if that helps people get back on track. And at some point, they won't need it anymore, once they have retrained their brains and bodies to sleep.
What did you do to retrain yourself to have quality sleep?
So first, I went on a sort of a binge of trying all kinds of things because I knew that prescription pills, didn't work for me. 2 weeks of them, and I had bad side effects. So I was like, I just can't do this. So at first, I just went on trying all kinds of things, which was really useful for my book because I could basically share all the things I've tried, that's worked. So first of all, education, the first thing, learn about it. So I have my book, The Natural Sleeper, but there's a lot of other books out there. You can even research online. You could go to ChatGPT if you want to.
Mm-hmm. But buy her book and read her book because she's done
Yes.
a lot of research. And even if you choose to look other places afterwards, at least you'll get the benefit of all of the research that Julie has done.
Yes, exactly. The benefit, and also understanding that my book is about the natural ways. So anyone who, has a bit of an organic lifestyle, or they will appreciate that it's just covering all of that. And it's also a book where I try to think about people's personalities because depending on, say, someone might be more spiritual, one other person might be more pragmatic, one person might want to be independent, other persons might want to work with professionals and need that coaching. So so it's a book about all the things that do work, and they might not work for you. Just keep looking until you find what works for you. That's what I did. I tried all kinds of things and went to, okay, this works for me, and I can really feel the difference. So it was a combination of definitely sleep hygiene, so all the habits around regular routine in terms of a lifestyle, good nutrition, good hydration, getting out of your mind into the body. So certain meditations are helpful for that because once you can just sort of bring all the chatter in your brain outside or into your body, it's just much easier. Chinese medicine really worked well for me. Ayurveda, which is Indian medicine, worked well for me. And then I also discovered that sound therapy was super efficient for me. And people would be familiar with that if they have children and want to switch on a white noise machine.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find the noises and sounds that work for you, then that's definitely one that I would recommend as well. It just brings you, makes you feel quite calm and easier to fall back asleep.
Yeah.
Now, there are other things like looking at the temperature in your room. And I'm thinking you're in California, Southern California. And it's understanding that the temperature in the room, the light in the room,
Mm-hmm.
the interrupting noises and all of that will impact your sleep. How comfortable is your bed? Do you feel pain? Is it time to change mattress and, buy a new bed? People keep their beds and mattresses for years. We should be changing it every 7 years, maybe 10, we should be making better choices when it comes to mattresses, even if it's to spend more money, it's an investment that is essential. And when a couple sleeps together in a bed, they can now have the different two separate mattresses stuck together, but have the comfort that they need, so looking at light, temperature, sound, disturbing noises, discovering perhaps, favorite nature sounds could be good. Although not everyone agree on this. We're all different. And even what works for one night may not work the next night, So it's about building a toolkit, a portfolio of options. And when you wake up, quickly identify which of these things is not going right, you correct it, and then you can fall back asleep very easily.
What does your wind down routine look like?
For me, I start with lighting,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it's on screens or in the rooms, it's bringing down the light level. That makes a huge difference for me. And it's about also, I avoid arguments or anything that could be triggering me negatively.
I avoid arguments all day.
I mean, you do need to deal with the
Yeah.
topics underlying an argument. I'm not saying be an ostrich and put your head in
No,
the sand and
I know
forget
what you're
everything else.
saying. But
Yeah,
the conversation, I think that what I'm getting, I'm joking, but what I'm getting from that is the conversations that you have, the energy that you allow yourself to be in right before going to sleep is what you're bringing into your sleep. So if that's arguments, that's going to start to be processed while you're sleeping, and it's going to impact the quality of your sleep. If you're
it will.
scrolling right before you go to sleep about all of the wacky things happening in the world, that's going to have an impact. So I think I'm actually agreeing with you that,
Yeah,
you really want to treat sleep as a sacred routine in
yes.
your
And
life.
it's also, again, the routine is also about the day. So ideally waking up exactly at the same time every
Hmm.
day, even on weekends. It's actually more important to wake up at the same time than to go to sleep at the same time, you know?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. What's most important is to anchor the start of your biological clock, which needs to be the same, because the brain will work out what your needs are. So say you haven't slept enough, but you woke up at the same time, you don't sleep in, you wake up even though it's the weekend. Your brain is going to readjust the sleep cycles, like spending more time in maybe deep sleep, etc., depending on what's happening. So yeah, it's definitely some executive decisioning that you're not even aware of the brain trying to figure out what you need most to come back to your normal state. That's why some people don't hear the alarm. They're like sleeping through. Some people actually wake up as the alarm is about to switch on. That's a great sign that you started regulating your body clock.
I put it on just in case, but the alarm never wakes me up because my body always tells me when it's time to get up.
Which is
So
great.
I
Which is
love
great.
this because you're starting with the morning. The
Mm-hmm.
morning is what's going to help to dictate the quality of sleep for that night. So you're getting up, you're deciding this is the time that I'm going to wake up. Whatever that time is, whatever works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then throughout the day, what are some of the things that a person can do? Maybe 3 or 4 things that a person can do, just like bulleted, because my goal is for those who are listening, take these bullet points down, and start this tomorrow morning. And you can start with, as Julie mentioned, at what time do you want to wake up? And of course, there are things that happen sometimes that, real things I have to shift, but for most of the time, right? So you set your wake up time, and then what else do you need to be doing? HaraHub Carlsbad is a co-working space and member community designed to empower entrepreneurs. More than just a workspace, HaraHub Carlsbad is a business accelerator and a connected network of successful entrepreneurs. Imagine a collaborative, serene, and spa-inspired environment where you can thrive. Our unique community allows each member to be both a guide and a student, fostering leadership and continuous growth for both you and your business. Experience an uplifting, supportive atmosphere that will elevate your entrepreneurial journey. For more information about HaraHub Carlsbad or to schedule a tour, visit harahub.com/Carlsbad. We also have locations in Temecula, Irvine, Washington, D.C., and HaraHub Carlsbad is one of 3 HaraHub locations in San Diego, the others being in Mission Valley and La Jolla.
So you set your wake up time. Ideally, you would go straight out the door. And I know it's not so practical for some people because they have to get ready, get the kids ready and whatnot, but go outside as soon as you can. In California, you guys have beautiful light. Like you might even why not drink your coffee or whatever outside. Why not check your phone and whose email or social media outside?
So go outdoors as soon as you
Yes,
can, if it's
yes,
possible. Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay.
And it usually always is possible.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, that's something that's
Okay.
doable. You can bring your activities outdoors, depending on what they are. Like I said, scrolling your social media, if you did it outside, at least you'd be hit with more light,
Okay.
really easy thing to do. Obviously, when it comes to exercise, so as humans, we're supposed to go and hunt and fight food, and forage, or hunt and do things like that. So if you do your jogging or, instead of working out in the gym, at the gym, try to do whatever you can in terms of exercise outdoors. That is really helpful. Do not try to not drink, caffeine. And by the way, it's not just coffee. Coffee, tea, energy drinks, chocolate all have caffeine in them. You need to think about perhaps stopping around maybe 4 p.m. and no later, for like a standard in terms of your nutrition. You want to keep your blood sugar balanced. So same thing. So not going through extended periods of time not eating something. So I personally recommend 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks, and 1 snack could be right before bedtime.
Okay.
It's not, this is, but you hear different things because people are a lot into intermittent fasting as well.
Mm-hmm.
What you need to know with intermittent fasting is that you should be mindful of the calories intake. Because if you eat less overall, your blood sugar balance will drop. And if they drop throughout the day, when you come to sleep, your cortisol levels are too high and will keep you agitated throughout the night. In combination with maybe stress from work or stress from road rage or whatever, so anything that could create stress will heighten not only your adrenaline and noradrenaline, it's also going to heighten your cortisol levels. So yeah, I personally say 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks, including perhaps 1 before bedtime. You might also want to think about when you have your last liquid, your last drink. Lots of people have the cup of tea or glass of water right at their bedside, and they'll drink water before bed. And unfortunately, and that happens with a lot of my clients, I don't know what they think, but yes, 3 to 5 hours later, they might wake up because they have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, I drink water all throughout the night. It's ridiculous.
And the thing is, it depends.
Yeah.
If you are able to retain,
Mm-hmm.
while you're asleep and it doesn't wake you up or you feel refreshed, that's really the best way to monitor. Like, do you feel refreshed and energetic? That's the monitor. But if it doesn't bother you, then do it, and some people might sweat a lot throughout the night as well. And that's probably how the liquids, get handled. Unfortunately, we sweat, at least like half a liter of sweat into our mattresses. And I try to make people aware of it. It's not fun. But that sweat's got to go somewhere, and it'll go straight through your sheets in your mattresses, which is also why it's a good idea to, clean your mattress or, maintaining or buy a new one. So these are some of the decisions. Also exercise. Try to exercise in the morning or perhaps at lunchtime
Mm-hmm.
or early afternoon rather than at night, or late in the day. When you exercise, your cortisol hormone are also boosted. And if you go to bed with a lot of stress hormones, you're going to find it difficult to sleep. Now, heavy weights are helpful, first of all, to keep your bones healthy, but also helpful for that human growth hormone and that deep restorative sleep. So I'm not saying don't exercise. I'm just saying monitor how well you sleep around certain types of exercise and the time at which you exercise. And it could be different for people. Not everyone has like the same regime, I guess, So yeah, and then create a safe environment is another big one. Looking about, is the environment in which you sleep, does it feel safe? Is it in good order?
Mm-hmm.
Is it not stimulating in any way? whether it's light or noise or TV or mess, whatever might be a bit triggering.
Mm-hmm.
And then one that's like less popular is to think about how your partner is sleeping. So a lot of times when a partner does not sleep very well or snores, has apnea, it will disturb the partner. And in those cases, it's a good idea to get your partner involved in some sort of medical support, maybe a CPAP machine so they can breathe more properly. You can try earplugs. Sometimes that's all it takes, but
Mm-hmm.
some snorers are very, very loud. So you might
Mm-hmm.
consider sleeping in a different room.
Yeah.
And so these are some of the things, pretty much. I mean, you said 4 and already I came up with too many. But if I had to prioritize everything, it's exposure to light, nutritional choices, and stimulation in the form of anything. Stimulation, whether it be psychological stimulation or, what you eat, what you drink, like just in general, stimulation as opposed to relaxation.
Yeah.
When we go to bed at night, we should really bring it down,
First, and not expect
Yeah,
sleep to cover all of that.
exactly. And like,
Okay.
not if you fall asleep and quickly, a lot of people say, oh, I have no problems. I just fall asleep. I hit the pillow and I'm knocked out, which is a sign of sleep deprivation. It means you're not sleeping sufficiently. It
Mm-hmm.
should take 5 to 15 minutes. So that's a good sign of good sleep health. Um, but yeah, and then you can do any sort of calming activities, meditation, listening to music, whatever feels relaxing to you.
Yeah.
Could be different things for different people. It could be spending time with a member of your family or, cuddling with your dog if you've got one or things like that. It could be preparing your to-do list for the next day as opposed to doing your to-do list in the morning, because when you have a lot of stuff to do, your brain's going to keep thinking about it while you're asleep.
What I appreciate about all this is that it really is, I appreciate the fact that you haven't come with kind of like a one-stop shop, right? Like these are the things. I love the flexibility in the advice that you're providing, because what I'm getting as a bottom line here is learn yourself. Here are a list, these are some guiding principles or guiding activities and practices that you can put into place. And at the end of the day, getting quality sleep is really about, number one, prioritizing and understanding the importance of it. And number two, taking the time to observe and learn your own body and your own needs, and then figuring out what the strategy is for you to have quality sleep.
Absolutely. And I always start my sessions, whether it's in groups or individuals, with you can be your own sleep doctor. You just need to understand what's happening. And as a coach, as a sleep coach, that's what I help people find their way through what works for them. And then I want people to be completely independent going forward so that they could wake up or see and know exactly what happened. In the meantime, working with a sleep coach is also helpful, so because we can help navigate all of that. So that's my job.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
What I'd love to ask you, which is something I ask all of my guests, is first of all, thank you, Julie. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. What I do well is what I have my heart in. And what I recognize here is that this is something that is very important to you and something that you absolutely have your heart in and that you're passionate about. And I think that's so important. And so thank you for all the work that you've done and for the research that you've done that people can leverage by reading The Natural Sleeper. So besides that, and besides looking you up and learning more about the services that you offer, how can we help you? How can we support you?
Thank you so much for that. So The Natural Sleeper, which is available in English, French, and Portuguese, by the way. So it was released.
Oh, amazing.
So there's the book, which looks like this, and social media at We Sleep UK.
At We Sleep UK. That'll also be in the show notes.
WeSleep.co.uk is where the website is. I'll be starting a podcast actually in the US fairly soon.
Oh, yay.
We're going to launch in March.
Oh, will it be called We Sleep?
No, it's going to be, I actually need to speak to my partner to try and figure out if I can reveal.
if you follow Julie online, then there'll be an announcement about this new
Yes.
podcast.
Yes.
And that is the way to have a sleep coach that can provide you tips on a routine basis.
And for, those that really need more support and help, it's a little bit like nutrition or exercise. You'll have a personal trainer, you may have a nutritionist. So in sleep, there's such thing. It's kind of like a new type of job of being a sleep coach. So that's something else that you can do. So wesleep.co.uk, at We Sleep UK, The Natural Sleeper, the podcast that I launched soon in the US. And but can I end with this actually, is that as you embark on a journey towards better sleep, ask yourself first and foremost the why. Why should you sleep better? Because you're going to need that motivation as you create change and explore different things. You need commitment, just like losing weight, just like exercise, consistency, and motivation. Why should you do it? Is it going to help you further your career? Will you be able to be a better person? Could this help, I don't know, with family issues, or, dealing with your partner, or being more patient for your kids, or losing weight? We eat 300 to 500 calories more than we should when we're sleeping poorly, so ask yourself why, ask yourself, what is the motivation? Why am I doing this? And stick it on the wall somewhere, or on the fridge, and remind yourself every day why it's important to you in your particular situation.
Yeah. Thank you. Julie, thank you so much for your generosity. You have shared so much for this audience. And I know that this is something really rich and helpful for people to dive into. So
you were also supposed to, and sorry, because you're right, I've talked a lot. Your routine, I'm curious, what is your sleep ritual? What do you do for yourself?
Okay, I'm going to say this in like a minute, because my sleep ritual is I start thinking about it early on. So I try not to eat within, 4 or 5 hours of going to sleep. If I can, doesn't always work. I go to sleep between 9:45 and 10:15. That's the sweet spot for me. The sweet spot is also me getting up somewhere between 6:45 and 7. And that kind of like gives me extra time that I actually need. It's important for me to be hydrated, not hungry, but also not trying to process food while I'm sleeping. And then I journal at night so that I can empty my mind and empty my thoughts. Because if I don't, and if I have a lot going on, those things tend to creep up in the middle of the night and wake me up out of my sleep. And like you mentioned, I don't do anything, listen to anything, or watch anything that's overly stimulating, or that is going to trigger like overactivity in my mind or in my emotions.
And what's your best tip for when you wake up in the middle of the night and
go back to sleep?
Yeah.
To go back to sleep, to just not start thinking. Don't use that as an opportunity to think about an email that I have to write the next morning. And if I'm struggling to go back to sleep, I literally sit up in bed, turn on the light, journal. And if I do that for a few minutes, just to kind of get out whatever it is that was trying to get my attention, I can typically go right back to sleep.
You got it all covered. I'll add also, for those, if it doesn't work, then get out of your bed, go into another room, preferably cool, and sit in the dark until you feel tiredness come back. It does work. And journaling, absolutely.
Yeah.
Big time. Dump these thoughts. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you're a good sleeper. It's awesome to hear your routine as well.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that has come from a lot of years of struggling with sleep. So again, that was the reason why this was such an important conversation, because this sleep is part of our self-care routine. It's part of us taking care of ourselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So Julie, I can talk to you for hours. I Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. This was so much really great information. And I encourage you all, my audience, to buy her book, Buy the Natural Sleeper. Learn, this is a third of your day on average. So learn your the right routine for yourself and follow Julie. And I want to thank you, Julie, so much for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You. My gosh,
You're
thank
welcome.
you. Like, but I mean it. I'm not just saying that to be polite.
Nor am
It
I.
helps.
Yeah, no, really.
Yeah, I want to get the word out, and you're a fantastic enabler for that. So thanks, Billy, and thank you as well.